Really? This was the biggest and most ambitious episode in the show's history. Don't make me laugh. We begin our journey with a small cold open with scenes of multiple spies in different locations around the world being killed by an unknown figure. One in the Ivory Coast as he looks down a sniper scope, one in a plane over the Pacific Ocean while in the bathroom, and another in Moscow, Russia, all attacked by a figure that seemingly can phase through walls and ceilings to get the drop on them, setting up the main antagonist of our story. Or so you think. We then hit the opening title sequence with all the cast of last season returning. SpyFall. Oh, wait, it's a two-parter. SpyFall is a two-parter. This is gonna be a long one. We return to the story with Ryan Sinclair back in Sheffield, playing a game of basketball with his local mates. We get a very dramatic slow-motion section, with Ryan breathing heavily while eyeing up the bucket, then attempting to score, to then fail. This is clearly referring to Ryan's dyspraxia, which was an ongoing thing last season, so I'm glad that they're continuing that, and I look forward to see where it goes this season. In the hoop! We then get a small conversation with one of Ryan's mates, talking about how his mates miss him from his travels and Ryan's injuries in quite bad exposition dialogue.
Been sick though. Appendicitis, right? That's why we ain't seen you. And the hernia before that, and that detached retina.
I can see Chibnall's dialogue hasn't changed. It's like Ryan's mate had to remind Ryan that he had all these injuries, as he's either forgotten or didn't even know. These lines are the kind of stuff you find in draft scripts. They go back and forth with some banter, then see two men in black standing across, clearly waiting on Ryan. The story is building. We then cut to Yaz and her family, continuing the supposed chaos Yaz claimed from last season, even though last season they seemed like any other family. Yaz's sister is begging Yaz for Ryan's number, which I actually kind of do like because it actually gives Yaz's sister more character than Yaz ever got in Series 11. And she's only been in 3 episodes, including this one. I'm not even kidding. It's a real shame because this gag doesn't even go anywhere this season. Yaz claims to be off to her third secondment, with Yaz's mom clearly being concerned for her education, as Yaz herself talked about wanting more police work out of last season. We cut to Yaz's police chief from last season being unhappy that Yaz is going away yet again, showing Yaz is pretty addicted to travelling in time and space. Why does it seem so familiar? He asks if she's had a tap on the shoulder and she replies with, sort of, which really isn't that convincing if you ask me. We then see the same men in black from earlier standing by the sidewalk, with the police chief asking if they are with Yaz, which is a weird leap of logic as they legit could just be waiting outside the station for someone, unless this kind of stuff happens to Yaz a lot, that people can just pick up on it. Guess Yaz is just really bad at hiding things. We cut to Graham in a local facility getting a checkup, with the test results coming back as positive. His doctor gives Graham his condolences regarding Gross's death from last season, so the only part of Series 11 that had any hint of any development. He then leaves to be greeted by the men in black outside. What could this all mean? Finally, we cut to the doctor doing some repairs on the TARDIS with the goggles she got from last season. Guess she just stole those. Well, to be fair, the guy got brutally murdered. She's on the phone to the fam, leaving them a voicemail asking where they are, claiming that they are an hour late to meet up. But, Doctor, aren't you doing work on the TARDIS right now? Did you expect them to just wait around for you to finish up the TARDIS? Wouldn't it be better you just to finish up and then go to the place you normally go to, just outside the building of Yaz's flat? Where you know, everyone is really close together. The men in black arrive in black cars just outside the garage, asking the doctor to come with them, and she just agrees and asks to finish up the TARDIS before they go. Then Graham yells this. Worst Uber ever! Because that's how people talk. Then the doctor just goes with them and doesn't ask why they have their friends or what they need them for. She just goes along with it. She acknowledges pretty much that they've been kidnapped, so I'm glad the doctor is just rolling with it, asking no questions whatsoever, not even asking for any identification from these people. Glad the doctor is so smart, guys. Yaz wants to discuss a plan in front of the head of the men in black, which is an odd strategy. The doctor says the best plan is to just go along with it and to see who wants her help. It's not that this totally could be a trap in any way, since you didn't ask for any identification from these people, didn't even ask for any proof of government files. Why are you being so stupid, Doctor? Ryan points out that these guys might just kill them on the way to the location. The doctor says, look at him, he's clearly following someone else's orders, because that's good enough for her. Of course this guy is clearly following someone else's orders, Doctor. You really think he's just doing this on a whim because he felt like killing you? He's clearly a part of a big organisation. His plan might be to just just kidnap you, claim they need your help, and then just kill you on the way there. Why are you so stupid? The sat-nav starts to go a bit crazy, which ends to blasting a beam at the driver, killing him into seemingly nothing. Man, that was quick. The car now starts to accelerate faster and faster, clearly being controlled by someone else. They can't get out of the car due to it being locked, and the sat-nav starts taunting them. Why does this feel so familiar? So the car starts going backwards. The person controlling it wants everyone inside dead, clearly. So my question is, why does it avoid all the incoming traffic? Why not build up speed and just crash into either a car, the barricade, or a pillar, causing a massive car crash? It tries to use the beam and misses, which seems quite unlikely considering how well it killed the driver and how fast it was. Yet everyone else can just dodge it so easily by moving just slightly, despite how fast it fires. Hell, even in the shot they don't even move. The beam just misses them by hairs, which is odd considering how well it killed the driver, like it was nothing. It's almost as if they have plot armor. The car is going backwards onto an unfinished road, going up and towards the drop. The doctor uses a mirror to block the laser and hit the sat-nav, allowing the doctor to control the car, stopping it from flying over the edge. A voice over the radio starts to come out, and it is revealed to be the man called C from MI6. The doctor and co head their way up to MI6 in London. As they arrive, Graham claims that he was always wanted to be a spy. Ryan said that he would suck, with Graham saying that he would be great. I do love good comedy, it's just so funny. C then mistakes Graham for the doctor. Because funny. Also make a note of that. Remember this joke. The doctor then says she's had an upgrade. The doctor is upset with C for putting him into a car like a criminal, which is not the case at all, because the men in black asked you quite politely to get you into the car. They didn't threaten you in any way. Again, Doctor, you wanted to go. MI6 was hacked by an unknown source, and Yaz gets real sassy about it for some reason. You go, girl. C has been chosen to speak on behalf of every security agency in the world and say that they need the Doctor's help with this problem. Over the last week, there have been multiple attacks on intelligent officers worldwide of every nationality, and this is not any rival intelligent agencies, but something unknown of Earth with unknown technology. We then see the woman from the plane at the beginning of the episode in a coma-like state. Her DNA has been reshaped and rewritten, no longer resembling human. The Doctor describes it as a shell with a human appearance. I mean, I would just say she's just like a shell. I mean, we can tell that she has a human appearance, Doctor. This written DNA has pretty much killed her, as there is nothing for her to live, as the Doctor says. C claims the security of the entire planet is at stake and they need the Doctor's help. C provides the game with spy gadgets from laser shoes to calendar hackers. I don't really see how a laser shoot can be very practical instead of just a regular gun that can be hidden within someone's person. We see later in the story anyway that they were very hard to aim and are very, very loud, so it doesn't seem like they'd be very useful. This feels like I'm in a Spy Kids movie, and not in a good way, so I guess Spy Kids free. I like how Graham starts cracking jokes about the laser shoes after seeing a woman pretty much on her deathbed that he clearly cared about, when he even asked if she was going to be okay, with also the security of the world at stake. This is great comedy. This is why Chibnall's comedy will never work. It is just random lines about silliness with no actual substance behind it. He doesn't even think about the consequences of what his characters are saying, because he just wants to make dumb jokes. C then says that all the agents that were killed were investigating leads related to a man named Daniel Barton, who is the founder of the social media company Vor. The file says that he was an expert in fields like social media, scientific research. Vor is known to be more powerful than most nations, with Barton building it up from the ground. The Doctor then requests the help of O from this... Wait, who the fuck is O? When did the Doctor meet this person? This hasn't come up before. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Unfortunately, C had him sacked for some reason. C then says the reason that MI6 doesn't deal with these things is because the country used to have support from people like Unit and Torchwood. Shame those things are all dead. The Doctor then contacts O, who sends her a picture of a fish. The shot lasts longer than it should, so it's just really uncomfortable to watch. It's like... the editor forgot that the shot went on for so long. C reveals that Barton was also an agent who worked for MI6, who withdrew after going to the US, suggesting that he could have been a double agent or even a triple agent. Yaz then asks who for, but just before C can answer, he's shot and killed on the spot. Man, he was so close from telling us probably some vital information. Also, here's your paycheck, Stephen Fry. I'm glad you could appear in this. The gang once again are under attack and made their way out of the room and back into the TARDIS, managing to somehow carry all the spy gadget cases in such quick timing. Like, the shots make it seem that Graham goes from crawling to shimmying with the cases in like 2 seconds. The editing is just so bad. Once again, the snipers can only hit very, very, very still targets. Ryan then points out for some reason that the head of MI6 was assassinated. Yeah, Ryan, we all saw. Thanks for fucking reminding us. And Jan says it was the same bolts that came out of the sat-nav, like, Jan had the time to get a good look at those bolts before running out. I'd be totally lost without you saying so. The doctor asks where the photo she got sent and then realises she's being dumb, saying it was in her pocket. The picture of the fish has a secret image within the pixels to show the location of O. Then one of the creatures starts to phase into the TARDIS. Then the doctor quickly starts to materialise away. But then she seems shocked that somebody could actually get into the TARDIS, when on many occasions, things have gotten into the TARDIS. Guess this didn't age well. The doctor guesses that those things are what killed the other spies. The Sonic claims that there are no regions of any kind on the creatures. The doctor starts to organise the gang's plan to figure out the mystery. Graham and the doctor will go off to O in Australia to gather some intel, while Yaz and Ryan will go undercover to see what Daniel Barton knows. Maybe we'll get some actual character building with Yaz this time. Oh, who am I kidding? We're not going to fucking get that. We cut to San Francisco with Yaz and Ryan heading away up to 4 to get to Daniel Barton for information. We get some awful, awful jokes about Ryan panicking about going undercover, like some really bad lines about him wanting to call himself Logan because Hugh Jackman. I love how this is the best comedy Chibnall can come up with, though at this point I should not be surprised. They walk into the building to meet with Barton with some really awful lines as well, with Ryan calling himself Logan. These things are just painful to watch. We cut to Australia with the Doctor and Graham meeting up with O, who is accompanied by some agents from the Australian Secret Service, who are ordered to keep the gang safe. Graham asks what for? What do you mean what for? The things that are clearly targeting you. O has some files on the human disappearances, signings of the unidentified objects, all the stuff he's compiled over the years. He knows C was shot, and then Graham discovers O's camera setup from around the area. Again, O suggests that they are now targets, even though we already have come to that conclusion. It's like Chibnall really wants to get the point across that they're targets because the audience is really dumb. Back at Vol, Yaz activates the DNA scanner that is disguised as a recording device, while Barton checks up to make sure Yaz and Ryan are who they say they are. There seems to be a theme in this scene of claims of cyberbullying, which comes across as odd and unneeded. I really don't see what the purpose this serves in this scene or this story. Barton says that he learned in his line of work to seeing both sides of reality, that you can't trust anybody. Sure do love my themes. He then invites Yaz and Ryan to his birthday party that is happening the next day. Wonder if that will come up at any point. The DNA scanner comes back with Barton being only 7% non-human, which is unknown. Mystery. Back to Australia, the sensors have been triggered by something moving outside. The agents start to walk around the area, but then the doctor decides to go outside. She scans the area with no readings, meaning the creatures are here. She claims that she can sense them, which O claims that he knows what she means. I wonder what that could possibly mean. The creatures seem to be stalking them like prey. The agents demand that they go back inside, and then they go searching the area to then be attacked by the creatures, with the doctor yelling, "Running!" Honestly, I forgot that these characters even had names. O then suggests a strategic retreat. One remains though, and then starts to phase himself inside the hut, but then the Doctor sonics a trap to fall onto it. Man, where did he get all this power from? O then makes a comment that Graham just keeps saying what is happening when it actually happens. Chibnall, just because you point out something that's bad in your story does not make it funny or good in any way. Trust me, I've seen it before. They activate the electrical field around the cage, trapping it. The Doctor then starts to question the creature about what are they doing here, why are they changing DNA and attacking only spies, and where they're from. It replies saying far beyond, and reveals that they want to take over the universe. Man, that's really original. Like, don't get me wrong, in terms of a visual creature, they are pretty neat, but what this story fails miserably at is making the villains of this plot somewhat interesting as characters. Barton so far is kind of a dick who only cares about his business and self-interest, and these things just want to take over the universe, which isn't new to the show at all. Back at Vol, Ryan and Yaz are sneaking around the building, but then they see a camera, then point a device at it, and then they disappear from the camera. How does this device work, and when was this established in the gadgets prep? Does it replace the recording, or does it loop the camera? By looking at the time code, it seems it's just recording. Is anybody actually looking at this at all, or are they on a food break? But that's not even the main problem. I can get past that. Maybe MI6 has some really, really fancy gadgets, which they probably do. But then why don't they use this device in Barton's office? You know, the founder of the fucking company, you dimwit fucks. We see later the footage of you in his office, so why didn't you even check for cameras in the room? We even see a fucking shot within a camera while in this scene to show that they are being watched. Why are you two so fucking thick, you twit fucks? Even if you don't see any, why not just use it for safety? Oh, this is so dumb. Their task is to download every piece of data Barton's computer has had access to. They point out that Barton has a lot of cameras around the building, which they find odd. Why is it odd? It seems perfectly normal to have a good amount of security. He is the founder of the company, after all. If he can pay for it, why is it weird? You do realize what you guys are doing right now, right? This security isn't very good, is it? Meanwhile, Barton is making his way into the building, which we can see within all the cameras. So why does Ryan not keep an eye on the cameras? Why not turn off the cloak hack on the camera that's outside of the doors so it makes it easier for you to see if anybody's coming? Why does your brain not work, Ryan? They quickly talk about Yaz's sister wanting to date Ryan, which he likes the idea of, and says he would be a perfectly good brother-in-law to Yaz. Man, wouldn't this be a really cool idea to explore in future episodes about how maybe Yaz has a secret crush on Ryan, to then give her and Ryan a storyline to actually explore? Now that would be too boring to watch. Ryan then gets an alert on his fake ID, meaning Barton is back in the building, which is odd considering how he was already in the building the second you turned your back to the camera footage. Yaz starts to panic seeing the dice is not done yet, then Barton walks into the office. Somehow Yaz manages to get behind the furniture before Barton manages to walk in within like 2 seconds. So she managed to take off the data retriever, run to the furniture before Barton walked in, which is physically impossible considering how it was only a matter of 3 seconds. Barton forgot his bag and then senses someone in the room and then calls them out, saying that he knows that they're here. Oh no, is my poor Ryan about to be dead meat? No, the creatures are just the creatures. They say that there were obstacles, with Barton saying that they should have been discreet. They say the project must continue as they had planned, saying that they must defend, then disappear. Barton then leaves the room. Not really sure why though he came to get his bag at night when he could have just waited till morning, or hell, even to get the bag, why did it take him till nightfall to come and get his bag when he left during the day? After that, Ryan suggests they just get out of there, but Yaz for some reason says that there must be something else on the computer. Yaz, you have the device that you use to scan the whole computer. Surely there is plenty on it. The last shot we get of the progress was at 96%, which I don't know about you, but seems like an awful lot of information to have. I think there's a good chance you got some good information out of that computer. I would take those odds. But then the creature returns to steal Yaz away from Ryan. Then Ryan starts to run away after confronting it. At least Ryan has some sense. Rest in peace, Yaz. We hardly knew you as a character. Oh no, wait, she's alive. But wait, why did the creature only attack Yaz? Ryan stood there for about 10 seconds. The creature only said that she was gone just to taunt him, but then it doesn't attack Ryan. It called Yaz an obstacle, but doesn't see Ryan as one. Also, why does the creature feel so non-surprised that Yaz disappeared? Isn't she meant to just be like dead? We see Yaz has been transported to a crazy weird location with some electrical lights moving all around. But for once, we finally see Yaz display fear for her life. She's scared and creeped out. Amanda Gill has been extremely underused during her run of the show. While her character has very little traits, I appreciate that Gill tries her best to sell the scene. It shows off at least some of the few decent scenes from this story. Well done, Madam Gill. Not everything is on you. During all of this, we cut back to the doctor seeing the trapped creature reacting very odd. Meanwhile, Ryan runs out of the building and somehow avoids all the security that were at the front door and sees multiple creatures in all the windows just standing there. I guess it's just some really cool light show that they like to do. The trapped creature tries to fight back and O claims that it's taken something of a suicide pill. Yaz gets surrounded by the lights and is engulfed by them to then be transported to the doctor, locked in the cage. Man, that was crazy and didn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, I do not understand what these creatures are, and I do not understand what they actually want. They took Yaz for some reason, but they didn't take Ryan, even though they were pretty much both open to be taken. This story is just so fucking weirdly paced. The next day, we then have a small scene between Ryan and Yaz. Yaz talks about her fear of the place she was transported to, how she thought she was going to die, how it was filled with nothingness and emptiness. Ryan tells her that he will never let that happen to her. Man, it'd be really cool if this actually went somewhere, but it doesn't. Series 11 and 12 need more scenes between these two, developing their friendship, or even going further than this. Maybe this could just start a whole story of them falling for each other because they care for each other, and want to make sure that both are safe and cared for. This would give us something we haven't seen in years. Give us something so that we can relate to these two people. The reason why this era of the show is so poor in quality is because the characters feel like nothing. We get hints of where these stories could go and where these characters could go, how they could develop as people, but it goes nowhere. It never goes anywhere. So they just stuck as blank slates of people. They have nothing of interest and don't feel that they grow as people. Madigal and Tosin Cole try to give these characters an element of depth, but the showrunner fails to do anything with these people. Why should I care if they do not evolve as characters over time? This is why these stories are so average, why they are so undercooked, and why they are so wasted, because they don't care about how it affects the characters as long as it changes the show in terms of importance, because it's easier to change lore than it is to evolve characters, because writing is hard. Chibnall, you lazy fucking writer. We cut to Graham and O talking about some things. O mentions he has a file all about the Doctor, referencing she was once a man. Graham then says, when she was a what? I thought she was joking. Graham, you remember yesterday when C mistook you for the Doctor, saying how he knows the Doctor was a man? Did that not get through your thick skull, or are you already senile? Graham says the gang tried to ask about the Doctor's past, but she always changes the subject. When has that ever happened? Would it have been nice to actually see that, you know, to get a little bit of character drama between the companions and the Doctor? I guess Chibnall just didn't really think of that. Until now, I guess. O says the file is very interesting and suggests Graham has a look. The Doctor comes in and says she's made some iced tea. Fun. The gang talk about Barton suggesting that he could be part alien. O says that he has photos and files on him since he was born, saying if it was all fake, it is a very impressive legend. This just begs the question of when Vor was invented or when it was founded. We've literally just never seen it ever. Yaz says though, not impossible though. Why does that sound so familiar? Graham calls back to when C said Vor was more powerful than most countries, with O saying that these days the government don't understand technology, so the countries rely on outsourcing their tech requirements and expertise to private companies that transcend national boundaries, companies like Vor. So Vor sweeps into every corner of modern technology from commercial to military. Like I just said, the fact that we have never seen Vor whatsoever throughout the entire run of the show, or even just the last season. They just have appeared out of nowhere with no real build up to who they are or what they do. Prior to this, they literally have just been invented for this story. Ryan asks if it was possible that Barton assassinated C, tried to assassinate the gang's life, and is in league with the aliens. Ryan, you saw Barton talk to him, of course he's in league with the aliens. The gang can't seem to figure out who is in charge of each other. The data Yaz and Ryan got from Barton reveals an image decrypted with alien code, much like the picture of O from earlier. That's a mighty big coincidence. It reveals the coordinates to the creatures all around the world. There are a lot of them because more is scary apparently. I guess Chibnall's taking a page out of the Abrams book. The Doctor somehow figures out that the creatures are actually spies themselves. So I guess you could call them alien spies. The picture then shows multiple Earths. Then O suggests that they must look for the Spy Master, since they would have all the answers. I mean, yeah, of course, that's pretty fucking obvious. If O wasn't the Master, these lines would just not exist at all, because these lines in these contexts seem so weird. I mean, of course you want to figure out who's behind it all. Yaz pointed out that C mentioned that Barton was a double or triple agent. Then Ryan suggests that they head to the party that they were invited to by Barton. Man, that's really lucky they were invited for just some reason. I guess that was just part of the plans. Now is actually time to get to the part that actually references the title of this episode, because now it's Bond time.
Name's Doctor. The Doctor.
Do you get it? As the gang walk into the party, Barton looks over the footage of Yaz and Ryan within his office. You see what I mean? Ryan and Graham win some money from a game. Wow, how lucky was that? If you can't tell, Chibnall is not very good at comedy. The Doctor's also playing a game and thinks she's playing Snap, because the Doctor is weird and dumb. That's her character. That's all her character is. Also, that's not even how you play Snap. Like, I legit wish she had an actual character. To be honest, we literally know nothing about this incarnation of the character. Meanwhile, with O and Yaz, O celebrates for some reason even though he didn't win anything. Again, I know I'm going into detail with these kind of points. I'm trying to get across that Chibnall literally has only one comedy card within his writing, and it's terrible. O then says, lucky at dice, unlucky at love. What the fuck does this have to do with anything? This literally goes nowhere. Why would the Master say this? I don't understand why O says this. Barton then heads outside with the Doctor following suit. She then just straight up asks if he killed C. Doctor, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you just revealing yourself to Barton? Why just come out and say it like that? Do you expect him to tell you just everything about what his plan is? He's not an idiot like you idiotic waffle bag. Also, when trying to threaten threaten the doctor. He just says, I have security people. Who the fuck says security people? Wouldn't you just say, I have a lot of security? Like, this dialogue is even worse than most of Chibnall's other episodes. By the way, good plan, Doc. That went so well. Barton then leaves the party, so I guess the James Bond part of the story is done now. They were literally there for like 5 minutes. That was so worth the wait. We then get an awful chasing, with Barton laughing at one point like a Saturday morning cartoon. Which isn't what he has been established as, so it comes across as really, really silly and takes you right out of the moment of the chase. Also, why doesn't Barton have any security with him? He just said that he had security people, so where are they? Why aren't they escorting him to where he's going? Why is everyone in this goddamn story so fucking stupid? O then asks if this is what it's like to be with the Doctor. Yaz then says, this is one of the quiet days. How is this one of the quiet days, you fucking shitbag? You're being fucking shot at. Also, why does the Master ask this? The gang arrive at Barton's airstrip and sneak in to the front. Again, no security whatsoever. Obviously, the Master wants to get them onto the plane, so this would be the easy way to do it. But why don't they question it in any way? They then start to run after the plane and just manage to get aboard. For some reason, O is in none of these shots, like whatsoever. And even with the fact that he claims that he's not a good sprinter, manages to catch up with the plane and somehow gets aboard. O then says that he's never been good at sprinting, which the Doctor then just says, what? Also, I like how Barton sees the alarm on his dash, yet does nothing about it, even though he knows fully well he was just chased. So chances are, it's probably the whole gang, so why he doesn't even try to do anything about it is beyond me. We find out at the beginning of part 2 that he was just going to go on the plane normally, but then because of the phone call from the Master, he then got off. I like how he just didn't try to do anything after he got alarmed. As soon as that alarm comes up, and if it was me, I would know straight away who's at the back of my plane or who's trying to get onto the plane. Which actually begs the question, what was the original plan? The Doctor then says the plan is to just see where Barton is going. The Doctor then questions O's comment about never being good at sprinting, but it is then revealed that O isn't actually O. O was really the Master! Man, why does this feel so familiar? So the Master killed the real O, took his place, and has actually been behind everything we've seen so far. The Master says he has planted a bomb, it being sonic-proof, and then the creatures appear. But before the Master can escape, he says to the Doctor,
everything that you think you know is a lie.
I wonder what that could mean. The Doctor then gets transported to the place Yaz was before by one of the creatures, then the credits roll on part 1.
Welcome to the end of your lives.
Hoo-wee, what a cliffhanger. Oh boy, oh my. That's a real crazy ending, huh?
With the beginning of part 2, we get a quick recap of part 1 before we return to the Doctor, trapped inside the alternate world. She starts talking to herself, thinking about her companions, who are currently in a plane crash, heading towards their doom. Ryan then falls onto the floor to see a slab on the wall with his name on it. The next one then says to keep going left. The Doctor then sees a bunch of electrical lights flicker, and then wonders if she's inside something, maybe a liver. She hates being inside livers, because people get so offended when you're inside their livers. What the fuck are you talking about? Back to the plane, Ryan finds the third slab, and then the third slab says 4C seat pocket, in which Ryan finds a leaflet which gives Ryan a plan. Back with the Doctor, she then hears a voice, then runs to the sound of the voice to then meet a young woman. The woman says that this will all pass and that she will be recovered momentarily. Back on the plane, Ryan connects his phone to the floor panel, which reveals a recording of the Doctor on a monitor, in which he says to use the app that is being installed on Ryan's phone to then fire the plane. Man, that's some mega high technology. I hope this gets explained well enough later on. We cut back to the Doctor asking the woman what she meant by recovered, in which she says the paralysis will fade within her earthly form. She says her name is Ada, and she believes this is a realm within her mind. The lights start to appear, and the Doctor asks why they're surrounding her. She says that they place a word in her mind, Kasavan, with some big dramatic music.
Kasavan?
Even though in this moment, this specific moment, within the context, we have no idea what that actually means. We find out later it's the name of the aliens, but the music is being really dramatic as if we just learned something. We just learned a word. We don't know it's the creatures till like 10 minutes later. So it's really confusing for the audience because it's almost as if it's a big discovery and that we should know what it means. But if you actually look at what we know at that point in time within the context, it's so confusing. Then the creatures appear behind Ada, in which he says that this is her guardian. The Doctor figures out that this is a realm where the Kasavan are from. The Doctor then asks how they brought her here. They don't answer, which leaves the Doctor to figure out that they can't. even though she has no evidence to support that whatsoever. How do you have any idea, Doctor, how their powers work? You don't even know what the hell these things are, yet you're figuring out everything about them with no information. She says that this place isn't a planet, which I, again, have no idea how she figures that out. This absolutely could be a planet because you do not know where you are. You have no knowledge of this is a planet far away that you're being transported to, but then you figure out this is actually a realm where these creatures are from. I don't know how. The Doctor then delivers the line,
Are we beyond my universe?
which is really, really bad. She sounds like she's interrupting herself, but really jarringly. It's like the worst line read, I think, in this episode, probably. The Doctor reaches out her hand to Ada, which transports her out of the realm. We cut back to the plane in which Ryan can now successfully fly from his phone, because aircraft is so darn easy, you can just do it off your phone.
I mean, the person she should have chose was Graham, because he's the one who drives the bus. So he's a bus driver, so at least he knows how to drive something.
Again, this feels like an ex machina, but then when they later on explain it, it's done so poorly, so this just whole moment feels so shit. The aircraft is heading towards where Barton was going, so the gang sit tight. We then cut to the Master and Barton with his TARDIS, which was the hut from part 1. They discuss their final calibrations of the device in the room, saying they will soon be ready. It seems that some tension starts to rise between these two, and it seems pretty interesting. I look forward to seeing more of that. Barton gets an alarm that the plane survived, and it's heading towards its primary destination, asking the Master what went wrong, with the Master asking to watch his tone, as he is not one of his employees. The Master gets an alarm about the Doctor's location, then starts to bash his head into the console, because I guess the Master's just a bit crazy. He says that he will deal with the Doctor, and that Barton will deal with the others. We cut back to the Doctor from the teleport, where she can already tell where she is just from looking. Doctor then makes a joke about how she is the apparating man. Oh no, lady, because that joke didn't get old the first time. Did you know that the Doctor is a lady? The year is 1834, meaning she's a long way off 2019, and hopes the fam is hanging in there. Can I legit... I'm not... This isn't part of the script, this part. I fucking hate every time how she just says fam. Like, at first in Series 11, she hated the word fam. She said, like, maybe we could call ourselves Team TARDIS, yet never refers to the gang as Team TARDIS again, and keeps calling them fam. I mean, they do feel like a fam of characters, don't they? I can just feel the chemistry oozing out of them. We cut back to the fam, watching over Barton, who has arrived in London via the Master's TARDIS. The gang are in Essex and will be following Barton as they have his diary notes, and they find out that he's going to be doing a speech in London tomorrow night, and they must do it without Barton knowing that they're actually alive, even though he asked if anyone was aboard, which there wasn't, so he probably knows that you lot are still alive. Barton then calls Soren to direct the gang as soon as they can. We cut back to 1834 with Ada asking who the Doctor is and how she was in Ada's mind as she thinks. She explains the plot of the episode so far, saying how this is all connected, but then the Master arrives to shrink people to death. I wonder why this feels so familiar. The Doctor then goes to confront the Master, and then we get a very, very, very odd scene of the Doctor bowing down to the Master as he commands. I guess Chibnall has a really weird fetish now. At no point does the Doctor ask where the Master has come from, what has happened since Series 10 with Missy, and if this Master is after. As far as she knows, Missy escaped with John Sim and didn't know she was killed, but doesn't want to know what happened. At no point does the Doctor ask at any point what has happened to the Master, because as far as we know, the Doctor knows at least Missy changed a bit.
You've changed. I know you have. Stand with me. It's all I've ever wanted.
Me too.
Even though Missy didn't side with the Doctor straight away, he could tell, the Doctor could tell that the Master had changed, that Missy had changed. Never asked why the Master has gone back to what he was before. The lunatic killing Master. I guess we should just be quiet and enjoy the shouty Master. He says that, when I arrange for your death, I expect you to stay dead. Meaning all this time, the Master has been trying to kill the Doctor, but from what we have seen earlier, it's clearly not good enough. Despite trapping it in a car, in a plane, and being shot at multiple times. He then asks how she escaped and got to 1934, which means the Master isn't in control of the conservant, which we find out later are what the creatures are. So the weird moment with Ada looks even weirder when it's played for a dramatic moment, yet wasn't needed at all, and we didn't even learn anything from it, because the Master says it here anyway. The Master then says he brings news from home, but Ada stops this by firing one of the inventions from before at the Master. This allows everyone to escape. The Master starts to yell, and then a makeshift grenade is thrown at him, allowing the Doctor to escape.
I really do not approve.
What do you mean? She just saved everyone. So one of the most confusing things that most people really get confused on if the Master actually wants to kill the Doctor properly, because in multiple points in this story, he hints at the Timeless Child. We know now, because we have seen all Series 12 at this point, that the Doctor is the Timeless Child. Yet at multiple points in the story, he says he's tried to kill the Doctor. Yet then suddenly decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hint at the Timeless Child and try and tease the Doctor. For some reason, even though I want her dead, but I want to tease her. But I actually want her dead, but I want to tease her some more. It's so conflicting, because I don't know what the hell this Master wants. If this story wanted the Master to let the Doctor live throughout the entire thing, because he wants to torture her with the whole Timeless Child story, that would at least make it more interesting and make him at least more competent, because he is just terrible at trying to kill everybody in this story that he wants to kill. We cut back to the gang who are walking around a local town when Barton gives them a call telling them that he knows everything about them. Barton has placed the gang as wanted to the police for hijacking and must go off the grid. Why does this feel so familiar? Ryan smashes all the phones, which feels like the first time that Ryan actually does something in this story that's actually smart. So, you know what? Bravo, Ryan. Bravo, you did something well. You did something actually good for once.
Also, Yaz is the one that throws the phone because Ryan misses her phone.
We then cut back to the Doctor. We find out that the two people the Doctor escaped with are Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace, who is actually Ada Gordon in this point in time, meaning the Doctor escaping was not an accident. Funny how things work out. The Doctor notices something called the Silver Lady, which Babbage received as a gift, a token of appreciation by a young man from his master. The Doctor finds a notebook with a drawing of a Casavan. Pretty lucky that the book happened to be open on the particular page that she needed to see. Ada says her first paralysis when she was 13 years old and has been seeing the Casavan her whole life since then. The Casavan had been studying Ada to learn of the human race, and then they found an ally in the Master to help them stabilize within the world, allowing them to send out spies to then kill human spies to rewrite their DNA. The Doctor figured out that the multiple Earths images from earlier was actually multiple time periods across the Earth's history, and it has all started with Ada. After activating the Silver Lady, a Casavan appears, and the Doctor and Ada use it to travel across time. Man, guess Babbage will just know about all this information for the rest of his life, not knowing what the fuck happened. But yeah, it's Ada who just needed her mind wiped. We cut to the gang on the run, heading towards an abandoned construction site to hide out. Graham says that there are no CCTV footage or any neighbourhood watch, so they're in the clear for now, even though there's a bunch of houses just in shot, meaning that someone could have just clearly seen them. Not like a bunch of people saw them out in the open running away in the town centre.
I also don't believe you, Graham, when you say there's no cameras in the area whatsoever.
I feel like the police would be on their case by now, since like a bunch of people saw them as they were deemed wanted by the police. The gang then have a scene talking about how they pretty much know nothing about the Doctor, which shows the lack of any team bond they have in the companions in comparisons to previous companions. Like, I would love to have seen all the time they have asked about the Doctor's past instead of just saying that they did in dialogue, because I don't believe it for a single second that they actually did. Ryan puts out that they should have believed her when she said she used to be a man, considering she's mentioned in almost most episodes she's been in.
Never did this when I was a man. Honestly, if I was still a bloke, I could get on with the job and not have to waste time defending myself. Half an hour ago, I was a white-haired Scotsman.
Yeah, I think you should probably have believed her. Graham says that he has the laser shoes from earlier. I wonder what those could mean for later, with Yaz asking why he didn't use them on the plane. Why the hell would he shoot up the place? That seems extremely dangerous. But he forgot, so haha, funny. Like, Graham's absolutely right. He should not have used the laser shoes on the plane, because that would probably have killed all of them instantly. So why is Yaz asking why he didn't use the laser shoes? That would have been a terrible idea in such a confined space.
Wait, is Yaz suggesting that Graham should have killed the Master?
After that very, very dry scene, we see a bunch of Casavan appear all around. But before we can get to that, we cut to the Doctor and Ada, who have awoken from their teleport. They agree to buy a woman who is on the run and says they are in Paris, 1943. A patrol arrives, so the three start to run into hiding.
I'm sure this woman who just happened to be running past this random street of Paris just as the Doctor was waking up won't have any importance towards the plot in any way.
We then see a general walk up for it to be revealed to be the Master. Man, 2 Master reveals in one story, man.
At least it explains why the Doctor and Co can understand the woman. Since the Master travelled here by TARDIS, at least some level detail was actually smartly used. Some.
We cut back to the gang escaping the Casavan all around them. Graham then badly starts to shoot at them, missing a whole bunch of them, but killing like 3 at tops. So I guess that's the end of the fam. Rest in peace, guys. We hardly knew ya, because you had no characters whatsoever. We cut to Daniel Barton in a location with a hostage, who is Like, honestly, it's so obvious that this person is his mum. It's not subtle at all. Yet Chibnall tries to put across that this is so incredibly subtle and we shouldn't really know who this is fully. He clearly shows some resentment for her, so he uses her as a demonstration for whatever he has planned, and has her killed by the Casavan.
He's just so evil.
It feels like Barton has only ever been a dick in this whole story and has nothing else to his character. He's just crazy and good with technology. How fun is that for a villain, and how interesting is that for a villain? Not very, if you ask me.
I tried to friend you on Facebook and you refused. And trust me, I never use Facebook unless forced.
This dialogue is so shit. We cut back to the woman the doctor met, back inside with men banging on the door. The men search the place with the master then walking inside. The doctor and Ada are hiding under the floorboards. The master then commands the men to light up the floor. Well, I guess that's it for the doctor. Oh no, wait, she's fine, she's alive.
Like, that was one of the weakest searches for a room I've ever seen. Man, that was real lucky. I also like how the episode just lies to you. You can see that the floorboards show the light to the doctor's faces, but then when they're revealed, there's no possible way they could be. Like, the rug is in front of the floorboards.
The doctor then figures out that this woman is Noor Inette Khan, who served in the Special Operations Executive. Wonder what she'll have to do with the plot. Ada grabbing the doctor's hand took them off course from returning to 2019. Well, isn't that very convenient? Man, I hope it isn't like really lucky that they arrived in this specific time so this person can actually help the doctor solve the plot. The doctor goes over the plot so far, which at this point is getting pretty old, because as someone who had to rewatch this for this video, knowing the plot, it's annoying how much they actually repeat themselves so that you can follow it. Again, Chibnall thinks that his audience is dumb, so he has to repeat what the plot is like 4 times throughout the entire thing, because there's an extra long story.
I have an idea, and you two brilliant people are a big part of it.
Wow, that just seems very convenient. God damn, the writing is just so good.
The doctor then decides to send the master a message using a code. A River of 4. Man, why does this feel so familiar? But before this, we get a scene with the gal and Yaz phoning her sister. Wait, how the fuck did you guys survive? You were clearly surrounded by the Casavan. Are you going to tell me that Graham killed every single one of the Casavan with his laser shoes when he looked like he didn't know what the fuck he was doing? You're having a laugh, right? Graham is the killer of the Casavan who have killed international spies. You are having a fucking laugh. Like, one killed a whole bunch of spies at a time. We saw at the beginning of this story that only one can take out the spies, yet Graham can kill like 20 with just laser shoes. Fuck off, Chibnall. Anyway, Yaz again is phoning her sister in a way to get the people to locate her so that they can steal a car. Graham then holds him at shoe point and then makes a joke about doing the old soft shoe shuffle. As you can see, these jokes are just fucking terrible. It would be better for Graham if he was like doing dad jokes. That fits his character. He's an older man, so that would be more suited for his kind of comedy. These jokes are just plainly shit. These aren't dad jokes. They're not good jokes. These are fucking terrible.
Also, Graham nearly kills Yaz and Ryan.
Then, in what is possibly the worst line in this whole episode.
She made a call knowing that you come for us. Now we're taking your phones and we're gonna raid your GPS. How's that for smart?
Ryan, you fucking pancake fuckface. Why are you so goddamn dumb? Oh, it hurts my brain. The doctor then does the message to the master and tells him to meet her at the top of the Eiffel Tower. We then cut to the tower with the two meeting up. The master said that he's using a perception filter so that the Nazis won't know he's not white. Keep that in mind, that'll be important later. The master reveals that he hacked the MI6 car and had C killed. So I guess the master's like really good at killing like brand new characters, but terrible at killing the doctor when he really should have killed her. I'm glad we know that now. He says that the Kosovars had been here for a long time and convinced them they had a sharing interest. Says they're like Russia, but bigger. Because that's how you make things scarier. You make more of them, because more is scary. That's how stakes are built up within a story. He said he suggested a better plan to them, in which then we cut to the gang finding Barton's mother dead. Barton then calls them, saying how dumb it was to say their whole plan. Like, well done, Ryan, you fucking idiot. Glad the gang was so well used in this episode. Not that they were desperate for any sort of challenge to develop their characters. Nah, that'd be too much work for writers. We cut to Ada and Noor, and Ada talks about how wonderful the doctor is in this really weird scene, considering how much Ada has been so underdeveloped as a character in this story. Chibnall, just because you use historical figures in your story does not mean you do not have to develop them. This is just so weird to give these lines to someone who hardly knows who the fuck the doctor is as a person. Ada describes it as she knows who the hell the doctor is and knows pretty much who she is as a person. Yet they've spent like, what, 4 hours together in total? Maybe like 6? This makes no fucking sense. The Master then asks how the Doctor survived. She says because the Archeron energy, it confused the Kasavan, allowing her to escape. Man, it's a good thing you met Ada in there, because if she wasn't in there, you'd just be stuck in there for the rest of your life. The Master talks about how he would use the Kasavan for all their worth for his own gains. The Doctor at no point tries to ask what happened to Master in Series 10. That would just be dumb to ask because, you know, this is Doctor Who, you don't have to be consistent at all. Meanwhile, with the other two, they make their way outside to the Master's TARDIS and then use the phone to call the Doctor. But the Master doesn't say anything about it. Are you kidding me? You're just going to ignore the really loud sonic screwdriver while she has her hands behind her back? This Master is so incompetent in every way. He's so garbage as a villain. The Master then asked when was the last time the Doctor went home. He talks about visiting Gallifrey, hiding within its little bubble universe. Chibnall, the last time we saw Gallifrey, they said they had escaped the pocket universe and hid themselves near the end of the space-time continuum. You fucking twat biscuit. I can't believe you don't remember what happened in Hell Bent.
Gallifrey is currently positioned at the extreme end of the time continuum for its own protection. We're at the end of the universe, give or take a star system.
I know.
He says when he arrived, he saw it being completely destroyed. So have we just resetted Gallifrey? I mean, don't get me wrong, with Hellbent meant to be completely meaningless, at least there's that, but we just undone Day of the Doctor. Chris, can you not do anything original in any way? Why does this feel so familiar? But anyway, men start to head up towards the tower because Noor sent information to the Brits about the Master being a double agent. The Doctor then shuts off the Master's perception filter and the Doctor just leaves him. Wow, what the fuck, Doctor? Remember in Rosa how devastated you were to be part of events of Rosa's arrest? How you were a part of her being arrested because of racism? I guess it's fine if it's the Master, right? It doesn't, because he's bad. He's an actual bad person, so fuck him. Let's push them towards racism.
Now they'll see the real you.
I'm glad you're such a great role model. Fuck you, Doctor. And fuck you, Chibnall, for writing this. We can leave the Master to the Nazis because he's a bad boy. What a horrible character moment for the Doctor. Still no character, but fuck me, what a complete oversight. We cut to Barn heading towards his speech in London, with a cut to the Doctor finding the Master's TARDIS, because again, the Master is really dumb and decided to just leave it as the hut. The TARDIS shows that the map shows important people in the development of computers, starting with Ada. So I guess we find out why the Kasavan are linked with Ada. She figures out why the Kasavan were actually testing on human DNA, but doesn't explain to us, the audience. Otherwise we would know what's going on and it would spoil the surprise. Barton then gives his speech about how everyone who bought a piece of technology that Vor owns allows Vor to know everything about people's lives. He sends a text to everyone around the planet saying, humanity is over, you have 3 minutes to prepare. My question is, why 3 minutes? I guess you want to do this grandiose speech to show how high and mighty you are. Like, is Daniel Barton the kind of person to just kind of show off for no real actual reason? It'd be nice if we got that throughout the episode, but it's very, like, nothing. Barton says the peak of humans has passed and says the way forward is human hard drives, saying humans are the perfect storage systems with over 7 billion hard drives around the world, and what is needed is to reformat humanity. It's so fucking crazy how no one in the crowd at all just fucking cares about what he's saying. Like, they're so blank-faced. The Silver Lady starts to activate, beginning to reformat every human with the Kasavan, rewriting their DNA to be used as storage. That's Barton's plan. He wants more hard drives. I guess he just ran out of space on his computer. Graham and Ryan start to shoot the glass with nothing happening. The Master appears out of nowhere and commands them to stand back. Says he has had the worst 77 years of his life. It's not like you could have met with your past selves at any point to help you out in any way. The Master then explains the whole plot in case you didn't figure it out already. Remember when I said this story likes to repeat itself a lot? Guess this is the end of the world. Barton will run hard drives and the gang will die. Oh no, wait! No, wait, hold your phones. Hold all your phones that are stuck in your face. The Doctor is here to save the day. Oh god, I was almost worried for everyone, but not really. Barton runs away. We don't ever see him again. Ever. What a great fucking villain. The Doctor then says, after seeing the Silver Lady in Barton's office, she went back to last year to put in a failsafe to save the world. So yeah,
Nothing to worry about. Totally doesn't feel like this is all just a big waste of time. Glad we can have stakes in stories and hope they get resolved in a very neat and clever way. Oh no, wait, this came out of nowhere and with no clever build-up at all.
I think that might have been me. And I'll admit, it was close.
What do you mean it was close? You have a time machine. Like they won because the master was an idiot and left his TARDIS in the middle of a random street in Paris. That was actually quite easy to find. This is so fucking shit. The Cassava then peer out the Silver Lady, the Doctor then plays the recording of the Master talking shit to them, and they turn on him. Now, it's a really good thing the Master was really dumb in that moment on the Eiffel Tower and didn't think anything of the phone the Doctor had and the noise of the sonic screwdriver. I hope you gotta realise that I think the Master is really shit in this story because he's really bad as a villain. They then transport the Master to the realm and leave him there. Don't worry, this doesn't actually matter at all, he just escapes later in the season. After all the plot is done, Chib remembers that he needs to sort out how the gang survived the plane crash. Hush, this is totally good writing. This shot of them running away is so goofy as hell. It makes it seem like the gang are actually being replaced, which was Graham's fear. Like, it's just hilarious to me, the way they run. Also, Noor and Ada just standing in the background is really funny to me. It shows like, I think it's the perfect representation of how they were just completely underused in the story, but were only used to resolve the plot and not actually be actual characters. Like, it's so lucky the Doctor ran into them throughout this entire story and throughout in the entire of history, because we would then be dead if she didn't meet up with these two very specific people. After that, she drops them back to their time and just wipes their memory. And that's about it. Nothing else really matters about them. Finally, after all the plot is wrapped up and finished in a neat shitty bow, we cut to the Doctor thinking about what the Master said. She then returns to Gallifrey to see it burn to the ground. Again, not very original, Chibnall. We then get a message from the Master saying that he was the one who destroyed Gallifrey, saying the Timers were built on the lies of the timeless child. Wait, how did you do this? We'll say the music and direction in this scene is pretty darn good. Don't worry guys, not everything in this story is actually terrible. Pretty much most of it. We then cut to the gang asking the Doctor who she really is. She says to them that she was a Time Lord from Gallifrey and that she ran away. They ask to visit her home and says another time, "Man, why does this seem so familiar?" We then get our last shot of the episode, the Doctor in despair over the loss of her home. Again. Alright, that's it, we did it, we got through 2 hours worth of plot, so let's settle down and have a small little chat, shall we?
Well, it was the story itself has been done in a different way in the past few years, a very traditional sort of thing that people will expect Doctor Who to fall into.
What a super contrived, messy and forgetful story. SpyFall is probably one of the most unoriginal stories I have seen within Doctor Who in a long while. We get a Master reveal, the destruction of Gallifrey, companions on the run, and all while being a James Bond-esque story. Well, more like Spy Kids, because everyone has the brain function of a toddler. The story holds together 5 main plot points. The mystery of the Kassavan, who is Daniel Barton, owes knowledge of alien life, which then turns into the Master trying to kill the Doctor on like 5 different occasions and fails miserably, and the mystery of spies being killed by these aliens. All while the Master hinting at this thing called the Timeless Child. Now, where the story actually falls flat is how each episode is paced and what it decides to focus on with each part. Part 1, while being filled with idiotic decisions by the gang constantly as we went over, it actually does a functional job at setting out the villains of the story with the mystery of the targeted spies. But what the rest of the story fails to do is to make them interesting as characters. Barton is completely undercooked as the villain because all we actually learned about him was that he was a computer whiz who hates human life and wanted to change the human race into hard drives to store information. But we never really understand what got him to that point. We never see anything in terms of a real character to get ourselves invested in him as a villain. In his first scene, he's a quite mysterious figure, but then as the story goes on, by the end of part 1 turns into a Saturday morning cartoon. And then in part 2 only gets about half of the screen time and only really appearing in about 4 scenes, with 1 only really being considered as actual character motivation, which even then isn't really developed on. Sir Lenny Henry is utterly wasted as an actor. He's probably the best actor in this story, but feels incredibly bland as a villain. He just runs out of the story as soon as his plans fail. The Doctor doesn't even ask where he is or what happened to him, or doesn't even try to find him in any way. He is literally literally just out of the story. They don't even think about him whatsoever, which is a shame because Sir Lenny Henry is a great actor, but the character of him is just not fulfilled in any of the potential the story sets out. What a wasteful villain. So, what makes the Kasavan such a bad villain? Well, when looking at the whole plot, the Kasavan aren't really a villain that actually have much depth. They serve more as a visual and physical threat for most of part 1 with very little clarification on what their actual motivations are. They seem to be just a bit of eye candy for the audience with the cool effects, which they definitely are. They're very good effects. And it seemed to work on the audience, myself included.
Consider as you hope.
That looks very good, that effect.
That was my reaction to first seeing the Kasavan phasing through the TARDIS with intent, along with the very well done effects to sell this moment. It works pretty well on the eye, which can get through mostly well when you first introduce the villain, but as the episode goes on, you need to start establishing who the Kasavan are, what they want, why they want what they want, and how they function as a race. But that isn't really what we get. The whole episode spent mostly on the mystery, focused on the gang trying to figure out who the Kasavan are and what the relation they have with Daniel Barton, but with the runtime being mostly that in part 1, we get very little actual time to actually develop these characters beyond the surface level stuff. They want power, and they want to control the universe. That is pretty bog standard stuff if you would ask me. Other than that, what else do we know about them? Well, that's kinda it in terms of actual character for them. We know that there are a lot of them, that they are from another universe and can rewrite people's DNA. Other than that, we never get actually anything else of them, and they are pretty much sidelined in part 2. They only show up in the present day aspects of the story, which itself doesn't get much in the way of purpose or screen time. They really serve as the story's plot device for the Doctor, as because of them, she's able to travel across time without her TARDIS to get where she needs to go and pick up who she needs to solve the plot and save the day. Which brings up another one of the major points of SpyFall that most don't pick up on. On the plane at the end of part 1, we see the Master reveal that he's working with the Kasavan and says to the Doctor that in the seconds before you die, everything you think you know is a lie. Then he teleports away, with the Kasavan then attacking the Doctor, transporting her to the realm. So why is this such a confusing point in the story? Well, let's just jump into it. In part 2, the Master is confused at how the Doctor survived the plane crash, meaning he didn't know she was teleported by the Kasavan. Because we find out the reason for this is for the Artron energy that surrounds the Doctor and Yaz. So why doesn't the Master not know this? Because he was there when the trapped Kasavan was swapped out for Yaz. The Master knows fully well her and Ryan were in San Francisco investigating Barton. So why doesn't he pick up on this? He knows she was teleported yet doesn't think anything of it. Surely if he doesn't know the full details, Yaz would have explained what happened to her. I mean, Ryan knows because he talks about it in the next scene. This means the Master surely couldn't have ordered the Kasavan to attack the Doctor, because that would allow her to escape potentially. So why does the Kasavan attack? Why don't they leave her on the plane to crash? Even if she does regenerate, the Master knows where the plane will be because of Barton's phone on the location of the plane. Plus, the Doctor would actually be stranded. She'd be trapped with no TARDIS, no people to help her. She would pretty much be alone and helpless. So this whole scene makes no sense. The only reason the Doctor was teleported away was to get her to meet Ada, to then escape the realm, to start plotting out how to stop the Master. This is the very reason the Doctor beats the Master, because Chibnall needed the Doctor to escape, but never actually gave a reason as to why the Kasavan attacked her. It makes no sense. Had they not attacked her, she would have died. This just exists so the Doctor can win, because the plot demands that she needs to escape to get where she needs to go, because Chibnall wanted the danger of the plane crashing, but didn't actually want to give a reason to why the Doctor manages to escape. Really, the question is why the Kasavan actually attacked her. Was there a reason for it? Was it commanded? Maybe this is setting up possibly that maybe the Kasavan are acting on their own accord, that they actually aren't in league with the Master fully. As the Master says himself, he's only using the Kasavan for what they're worth. Maybe that could set up the Kasavan are actually working in their own self-interest, that actually they have a purpose and motivation to do stuff that they want to do, and then might throw the Master under the bus. But we never get any of that, and there's no hints or any establishment of that being a factor, so this point is null and void. As a cliffhanger, yes, it gets you intrigued in part 2 and it's very exciting, but when you look at it as a whole, when you go back to that moment after seeing part 2, this scene doesn't make much sense. The Casavan are just a plot device for Chibnall to use to get the story he wants, and that's not very good. So really, the Casavan are pretty undercooked as villains, but they are pretty useful as a writing tool, so the plot can happen when it actually needs to happen, and be concluded how it needs to be concluded. And that is a real shame.
And now, the Master. The Master in this story is a dumbass. He is shown in part 1 to be the double agent with MI6 to trick the Doctor, and Sacha Dhawan plays the part decently enough in part 1. I'd say he was better in part 1 as he played the very odd O who knew more than he let on pretty well. The hints of who he really was were scattered around the episode, so the convenient force fields make sense. The weird way he talks throughout the episode give good clues as to something bigger about his character. But the main problem with the Master is his plan. At many points he tries to kill the gang when he very well could have easily done so, but then at 2 points in this story wants to share with the Doctor what has happened to the Time Lords and Gallifrey. So he's just deciding on the spot to tell the Doctor these things because he wants to mess with her, but then wants to kill her? Like I said, I feel like it would have been a better way to have the Master want to keep her alive just to tell her what has happened to Gallifrey. And then the danger would be the lives of the human race. This is all just so messy in part 2. He's also just really incompetent by not killing the Doctor when he very easily could. Leaving his TARDIS as the hut in Paris is pretty stupid. If someone says it's because he's arrogant, I'm gonna flip the fuck out. And not realizing what the Doctor was doing on the tower. Like, I can't take this Master seriously in this story because he acts crazy but also incredibly stupid. Like, he acts as if he's got this super mega well constructed plan, yet also acts like a complete moron. It's so annoying. The Nazis capturing the Master scene is just really distasteful. Chibnall clearly didn't think about the repercussions and implications of that scene. Like, Chibnall didn't even think about lines like, now they'll see the real you. It's really out of character for 13th to do this. This kind of behaviour doesn't come up again ever, and it makes it just feel so out of character for her. And considering we had an episode last season talking about racism, yeah, it doesn't sit well at all. The real kicker is that we at no point know where this Master lines up with the other Masters. And the reason that's important is because the Master's last appearance, Missy, her arc had completely changed who the Master was as a person.
It's time to stand with the Doctor.
Only to die by her own former hand for this reason. It was a really well done story in Series 10, and now it feels completely skippable because the Master always comes back to what he normally is with no explanation. Like, in End of Time, the resurrection shit is so dumb, but at least it was an explanation, which is more than I can say for this story. Now, we could assume that this Master is from before, since we never actually saw Sim regenerate on screen. Not like Chibnall cares about where the incarnations line up, but why doesn't the Doctor at any point ask what happened to him? The Doctor didn't know he died as Missy and knew a part of the Master had changed, but now the Master is back to how he was before, and the Doctor doesn't care enough to ask any questions about it. This is still a TV show. You need to be consistent with your stories. This is where you would need your exposition dialogue, instead of just repeating what we already know like you always fucking do, Chibnall. Chris, you fucking tart. This is why people hate the writing in this era. Overall, his performance is fine enough, but could have been better under better writing, which SpyFall is not. It's poorly written. There are people out there who legitimately think that Sacha Dhawan is better than masters like John Sim, saying that Sacha's scripts are better than John Sim's scripts. That is so ridiculously stupid. This script is so broken to its core, it actually pains me. People telling me that Sacha Dhawan is like a really great master, I legit would love to know why, other than he's crazy and feels like he's going to break down at any point. Tell me why he's an interesting villain, why he's a threatening villain, and why he's a competent villain, because he is none of those. I feel bad for Sacha Dhawan because I absolutely guarantee he could have been a great master, because he is a decent actor, but the writing is so fucking bad.
Using your TARDIS, I built a failsafe into that machine.
Oh, so you won because the master was an idiot. I love it when that happens. It's sad that this is even the worst part of the master this season. One day.
Let's move on to the companions. Well, they're pretty much still the exact same as they were in Series 11. Yaz gets some stuff to do at least, but going forward it doesn't actually come to play at any point, as I talked about, especially with scenes between Yaz and Ryan. It never seems those scenes have any meaning going forward. Like I said, this scene is where you could have started a romantic story between friends. Use the jokes about Yaz's sister wanting Ryan's number to drive the story forward for Yaz and Ryan. Just something would have been nice. Graham feels like pretty dumbed down in this, like all his development in Series 11 doesn't feel like too much of a factor, which isn't overall terrible, but we just get a lot of really bad jokes from him in this story. Just overall feels really messy and it isn't fun to watch at all. The gang are pretty much null and void in part 2. Honestly, they do nothing to move the plot forward in any way. Trimnell just does the sound of drums with no substance, just to get them out of the picture so that they don't do anything with Barton.
And even then, on 2 occasions, they should just straight be fucked. Somehow, or some way, they don't get followed by anybody or any sort of police or authorities in any way when they actually get to the construction site. And then with the Casavan, they somehow managed to escape. I don't know how, but they just did. Graham somehow found a way to shoot them all with the laser shoes. What?
We get something at the end of the episode, which is something, but at least when Graham says stuff like they asked about the Doctor's past before, but yet in fact we never actually got to see that in Series 11.
It just feels like a massive disconnect. And I guess that's more Series 11's fault, but even then, you have to at least establish it here. You can't just say it's a fact when we haven't actually seen it. The companions are just still blank slates of characters. Nothing about them has changed. Nothing new at all.
And now, the Doctor. Jodie in this does pretty much the same as she was doing in Series 11. She cracks the same jokes, acts the same way, explains things the same way, and solves the plot in the same way. Nothing really changed. But the ending of part 2 shows the potential of Jodie as the Doctor in her performance. When viewing Gallifrey, the direction and music aid what is a very well put together scene.
Though the really sad lighting inside the TARDIS is kind of funny.
It's just a shame that everything else in the story, she feels the exact same as she was in Series 11. And it took a retcon of Gallifrey to actually give her somewhat of an actual character. It just goes to show how little character this incarnation has. She's quirky, socially awkward, and that's it. There's nothing else to her. I do not get this Doctor in any way. This is more blame on Series 11, but to display it like this without doing any of the work is baffling to me. Her relationship with Yaz and Ryan and Graham still feels really underdeveloped, and even at the end of Series 12 it still feels that way. Chibnall really has ruined what could have been a really interesting take on the character. If you have seen anything Jodie has been in other than Doctor Who, you'll see how great of an actress she is. She is just so wasted here and just horribly written as a character. It really pains me to say that, but we have to face facts. Jodie's Doctor is a bad character.
And let's be honest, she was ruined a long time ago.
SpyFall truly is one of the most overrated stories I think I've ever seen, with poorly written characters and poorly written villains, a contrived plot with uninteresting characters with no real focus on its overall plot. This Doctor Who still feels the exact same as Series 11. This is no different to some of the stories like Rosa, Women Who Fell to Earth, or Ghost Monument. This script is utterly fucked with a bunch of style over substance nonsense. This story is just a boring, high-scale mess. This story is nowhere near a story like Sound of Drums, Utopia, Sontaran Stratagem, or even End of the World. The stories that ideas are stolen from to make this story. Chibnall is an unoriginal, dumpy fuck who can't write simple dialogue to save his life and thinks the way to comedy is to have characters simply shout out dank memes.
Worst Uber ever!
This story is not even close to competent. Overall, the direction and music are pretty good, probably the best part about this story, but visuals and music do not make stories well written. I said when reacting to these episodes when they came out that they were pretty average, but now I'm pretty much under the impression that this episode is shit. And part 1, while being dull as it is, still at least sets up what could have been an interesting story to explore. They don't get explored whatsoever in part 2. SpyFall is one of the most overrated stories I have ever seen.
People who say that this is one of the best episodes of Doctor Who ever are wrong. People who say this is one of the best episodes even within Series 12 are wrong.
Haunting of Villa Diodati does so much better with its characters than this story ever does. Like I said, this story is a mess, it is horrible, and is objectively poorly written.
That took longer than I needed to.
We're going to die!
Now they'll see the real you.
What'd you bring me?